It is Wednesday, so welcome to Unbothered. If you're not familiar with Unbothered, this is my podcast where I basically talk about things that bother me until they don't bother me anymore.
Everything bothers him.
He's unbothered.
He calls it unbothered, but that's what's cute because everything bothers him. He's bothered. I'm a botherina.
People will hit me up online all the time and tell me how much they like me because I don't worry about cancel culture. And there's a reason for that, besides the fact that I've already been canceled a couple of times. And I never worked more after being canceled, so it was very ineffective. But whatever, they tried it, they did it, they definitely made the efforts. But for me, the reason that I don't worry about cancel culture is because no matter what I do, I'm going to get canceled. Because when I first started doing stand-up, I would just write the stuff that I thought was funny, and it was all autobiographical, just like it is now. So I was talking about my life and people I actually know and stories from different situations that happened when I was with certain people. And two of my best friends that I hung out with the most and probably shaped me the most were trans women. So I did a couple jokes involving trans people and involving them and different things that I've seen happen as far as trans go, or LGBT in general. And the LGBTQ community didn't appreciate a lot of the stuff that I was doing and turned it into a thing. And this goes all the way back to like 2007 or 2008, which was when I was just getting into stand-up just really starting to work. And it was very frustrating for me because I was probably 5 years in at that time, and I remember feeling like for the last 5 years the gay community has not been here for me when it came to stand-up. Even when I would try to do the LGBT shows that were in LA at that time, they weren't welcoming of me. They weren't cool with me. That's why I created the comedy festival that I put on, Laughed Out, which is another thing that's not going to be happening. This was going to be our second year, 2021. January 2021 was going to be our second year, and now we're not going to be able to do that. But to get back to the point, the reason that I started that festival was because I was different. They didn't want me on their festivals because there was a festival in LA at that time that was LGBT, and they definitely did know me and know of me. They didn't want me on their shows, and all because I had a different point of view that didn't line up with what the LGBTQ community was going for, which I've often said that I don't think the LGBT community has a agenda, the way people say the gay agenda, but at the same time it kind of seems like they do when they get mad at you, even as another LGBT person, for saying certain things or expressing yourself in certain ways. Then it does start to look kind of like an agenda, and I know some people would get mad at you for saying that, but I'm just tired of people always wanting to be mad about stuff. So that's why I don't pay attention to cancel culture, because there's nothing I can say and no way I can express myself without somebody getting offended. Even when I talk about myself, I talk about being Latino and how I don't like the term Latinx and I don't want to identify as Latinx, and I'm not going to identify as Latinx. And that's something that'll make people mad too. And it's like, now you're telling me how I'm supposed to identify and you're getting mad at me for how I identify. You can identify as male, female, trans, non-binary, otherkin. There's so many different classifications right now for the way that people can identify, but then I say that I want to continue to identify as Latino and I don't want to switch over to identifying as Latinx, and suddenly that's the worst thing in the world. Well, how do these rules work that you get to have your way, whatever you want, but then I express that I want things a certain way just for me? I don't care if other people identify as Latinx. Knock yourself out if you want to. I don't know a lot of Mexicans that want to identify as Latinx, but if they do, cool, identify as Latinx. I am not, and that should not hurt your feelings. I was being told how closed-minded I was the other day in a conversation because I'm not going to identify as Latinx, and it's like, no, that's not me not being open-minded. You can identify as Latinx if you want to. I'm not saying you can't, but you're not going to come over here and tell me this is what you're going to identify as. And even that, I'm sure, will at some point lead to cancel culture coming after me. And I don't care, because there's nothing I can do short of giving into their demands to satisfy them. That's the thing with voting for Donald Trump. There's people that are mad at me because I'm voting for Donald Trump and they think I'm the worst person in the world, but there's nothing I can do about that. I'm still going to vote for Donald Trump. So what do you think's supposed to happen here? Do you think I'm supposed to change the way I'm voting to make you happy? Who are you and why do I care so much? And that's what I find myself asking a lot of times when people come after me for saying that I feel a particular way about a particular topic, and they really want me to just accept that their way is the right way. But it's like, how do I know your way is the right way? I don't know anything about you other than you're a voice on the internet. That's really all I know about these people. I don't know how you live. I don't know what your values are. I don't know how much money you make. I know nothing about you so that I can see if we line up the same way, or if we're even the same kind of people, or if we even have the same values. But I'm supposed to just drop whatever I think about anything and adopt your way. If I were to fully subscribe to everything they want, think about how much of my life I would have to actually change. How I behave as a gay man, that would have to change. How I vote would also have to change. And how I identify as Latino instead of Latinx, that's another thing I would have to change. Those are three major things in my life that I'm being asked to change. And if I don't change those things, then I'm considered to be a difficult person or not proud of who I am. Well, how about if you were as proud of yourself or who you are as you pretend to be, you wouldn't care how anybody else identifies. Anyway, you guys, stay unbothered.